I rolled into Willow Creek last spring, my old pickup groaning under the weight of 6 months' worth of exhaustion from helping my sister in Georgia get back on her feet after a nasty car accident. All I wanted was the hum of my backyard creek, the smell of pine, and a cold beer in my own damn house. But the second I pulled into my driveway, something felt off, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting for a storm I didn't know was coming. The place was quiet, too quiet. No kids racing scooters, no sprinklers spitting life into the lawns, just this eerie stillness, like the air itself was parched. My neighbors' yards looked like they'd been abandoned grass turning that sickly yellow, not from summer heat, but from neglect, like the earth was gasping. My own lawn, though, was a stubborn patch of green, thanks to my buddy Mike, who'd been keeping an eye on things while I was gone. I stepped out, boots crunching on the gravel, and that's when I saw it, a cheap plastic sign zip-tied to my fence, flapping in a breeze. All exterior water use must comply with HOA conservation orders. Non-compliance will result in fines. Signed, in Sharpie, Lydia Harper, HOA president. Lydia. Of course it was Lydia. The woman who'd once reported my dog, Rusty, for excessive howling during a summer storm, who wore pearls to take out the trash, who'd been itching to turn Willow Creek into her personal fiefdom since she moved in 2 years ago. I'd heard whispers about her before I left, how she was pushing for neighborhood standards, banning things like lawn gnomes or non-neutral porch lights. But this was next level. I tossed my bag inside, the house smelling like dust and old wood, and went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. The tap worked fine, cold and clean, thanks to the private well my granddad dug decades before this subdivision even existed. I'd had it checked a few years back, just in case, and it was my little secret not hooked to the HOA's precious community water tank. But something about that sign gnawed at me. I stepped out back to check the well, hidden behind my shed under a tangle of jasmine vines, and that's when Mike showed up, looking like he'd age a year in 6 months. "Man, you're back just in time," he said, his voice low, like he was afraid the mailbox was listening. "Lydia's gone, full dictator. Shut off the community water last week. Said the main tank's busted. Everyone's hauling jugs from the gas station in town." I blinked, trying to process. She shut off the water? For the whole neighborhood? Mike nodded, his eyes flicking toward the street. "Yeah, and she's got her little posse patrolling, handing out fines for anyone who dares water their grass. You better keep that well of yours quiet, Jake. She finds out, she'll slap you with a violation faster than you can say drought protocol." I stood there, the weight of it sinking in. This wasn't about conservation. This was about control. Lydia wasn't just playing HOA president, she was building an empire, and she'd cut off the neighborhood's lifeblood to do it. I told Mike to swing by in the morning with some jugs. "We'll figure this out," I said, and he gave me a look, half hope, half fear, like I'd just lit a fuse. Next morning, I was up before the sun, old Army habits kicking in. Coffee in hand, I watched Willow Creek wake up, or rather, not wake up. No dogs barking, no sprinklers hissing, just the dry creak of the wind. Mike rolled up at dawn with a couple of 5-gallon containers, his kid Lucy in tow, looking like she hadn't slept. I led them to the shed, popped the well's cap, and flipped on the pump. It hummed to life, steady and strong, pulling clean water from deep under the earth. Mike's jaw dropped. "Jake, this could save us," he whispered, like he was afraid to jinx it. "Don't get too excited," I said. "Just take what you need and keep it quiet." By noon, word had spread, not through texts or next door, but the old-fashioned way, neighbor to neighbor. A few folks showed up quiet, almost guilty, with buckets and bottles. I didn't ask questions, just handed them the hose and told them to boil the water if they were nervous. I wasn't trying to start a revolution, just didn't see the point in letting kids go thirsty while Lydia sipped iced tea on her perfect lawn. But I knew she'd find out. Control freaks like her always do. Sure enough, that afternoon, an email blasted out from the Willow Creek HOA. Subject line screaming emergency water briefing. It was all caps, full of buzzwords like critical infrastructure and community sacrifice, warning that unauthorized water use would bring fines and board review. I forwarded it to an old buddy, Tom, who used to work for the city's water department. His reply was blunt. She's full of it. HOAs can't control water without permits. I'll dig into it. That evening, the HOA clubhouse was packed, tension thick as desert heat. Lydia stood up front in a blazer that screamed, "I'm in charge," holding a mic like she was running for governor. "We're facing an unprecedented crisis," she said, clicking to a blurry slide of some rusted pipe. "This valve could collapse the system. That's why we've suspended water use for your safety." The crowd murmured, uneasy. She went on, all fake sympathy. "I know it's hard, but it's for the greater good. And let's be clear, private wells are not allowed under Section 4.2 of our covenant." I couldn't help it. I stood up. "That's not true, Lydia." Her eyes snapped to me, sharp as a hawk's. Section 4.2 bans new wells without approval. My well's older than this neighborhood, registered with the county, and you've got no jurisdiction over it. The room went quiet, her smile twitching like a bad signal. "Mr. Callahan," she said, voice tight, "your well's a liability if it's distributing water. Show me the paperwork." I shot back. "Show me the city permit that lets you cut off everyone's water." The murmurs grew louder. She tried to wave it off, but the seed was planted. That night, I got a text from Mike. A photo of Lydia's pristine lawn, her fancy fountain bubbling away, a hose snaking from her faucet. "Guess who's not conserving?" he wrote. My blood boiled. She wasn't just controlling the water, she was stealing it. I called Tom again. "Check her property line," I said. "I bet she's tapped into the main valve." He promised to look into it, and I started collecting evidence, every HOA notice, every email, every blurry photo of her green-as-Eden yard. Things escalated fast. Lydia's goons, some rent-a-cop types in HOA-branded polos, started circling my place, snapping pictures, leaving notes on my mailbox about non-compliant irrigation. One morning, I caught two of them trying to cut my well's pipe with bolt cutters. I grabbed my phone, started filming. "You're trespassing," I said, calm as I could manage. "And that's a registered utility you're messing with." The one in charge stammered, "We're just following orders." "Lydia's orders don't trump county law," I said. "Get off my property, or I'm calling the sheriff." They bolted, but I knew she wasn't done. By then, the neighborhood was waking up. People started talking again, whispering about Lydia's fountain, her threats, her fake emergencies. I printed flyers, nothing fancy, just water rights meeting, my porch, 6 p.m., and slipped them under doors. That night, a dozen folks showed up, some with kids, some with stacks of HOA fines for things like unapproved flower pots or non-standard mailbox height. We unrolled an old property map I'd gotten from Mike's dad, a retired surveyor, showing my well was grandfathered in, outside HOA control. "If she can't touch me," I said, "she might not be able to touch you either." You could feel a spark, like the air before a storm. The next day, Tom called with a bombshell. "Found it," he said. "Lydia's hooked her fountain to a service line that's supposed to feed the community tank. She's been siphoning water this whole time." He sent me photos, timestamps, meter readings, proof she wasn't saving the neighborhood. She was robbing it. I forwarded everything to the city, and they moved fast. A county inspector, a no-nonsense guy named Walt, showed up, checked my well, and gave it a clean bill of health. Then he saw the evidence of Lydia's setup. "This isn't a shut-off," he said, jaw tight. "It's theft." He filed a report on the spot, calling it endangerment of public welfare. The city called an emergency hearing, and Willow Creek showed up in force. I walked in with a binder thick with evidence notices, footage, neighbor letters about Lydia's harassment. Lydia sat across the room, all polished and poised, but her hands were shaking. The commissioner, a woman with zero patience for nonsense, laid into her. "Ms. Harper, you diverted public water to your property while cutting off residents. Explain." Lydia mumbled something about emergency measures, but it fell apart when Tom showed the photos of her fountain, gurgling away while kids went without baths. I took the stand, kept it simple. "I'm just a guy with a well," I said. But Lydia turned this neighborhood into her personal kingdom, and she used water to keep us in line. That's not leadership. That's tyranny. The gavel dropped. Lydia was outstripped of her title, her HOA powers suspended. The room didn't cheer, but you could feel the relief, like a weight lifting off everyone's shoulders. Outside, neighbors hugged, some cried, some just stood there, soaking in the sunlight like it was new. Lydia's car was gone by the next day. Her house went up for sale a week later, that fountain silent, her lawn already browning. Willow Creek didn't snap back overnight. Lydia's fines had hit hard-cracked sprinklers, dead gardens, families stretched thin. But we rebuilt. A new president, Sarah, a retired nurse with a knack for listening, opened the HOA meetings to everyone. We scrapped the old rules, started a fund to help folks fix their yards, even built a community garden where kids could plant whatever they wanted. My well kept flowing, not just for me, but for anyone who needed it. One day,